Was reading an article, not yet.
Okay.
Not yet. I was reading an article from Blogging the Boys that sparked my interest on researching this a little bit more. It said Mike McCarthy deserves more praise. That's the crux of it, and it walks through several different notions. It's a good article. You should go check it out by David Howman. Not Hellman, David Howman. And
is that really David Hellman just under the ghostwriter name?
I don't know that to be the case.
David Howman.
If it is, I don't know that to be the case. But while I was looking at that, I saw another article that I'm sure we're all familiar with that came out yesterday that said Cowboys have a replacement head coach if they falter, ? And then it was like, hey, if the Cowboys don't make a deep playoff run, they're already ready to replace him with Quinn. And
yeah, that was like from Sportskeeda, right? Yeah, I saw that too. I was like, what is happening right now?
And so just those two things popping up at the same time I thought was odd. So I wanted to just ask the question first, and then we'll dive into why I think the answer is yes. Do you think Mike McCarthy deserves praise or maybe even deserves more praise?
He deserves more praise. I guess I don't feel like he's getting any praise.
Yes.
Do you feel
like it's almost like they're waiting for the Cowboys to lose in the playoffs, which, let's face it, they probably will. Right now, they're going to have to go on the road for 3 games to try to make it to the Super Bowl. And it's like, I don't want to praise him because I want to demolish him when they lose the playoff game they're probably going to lose. Like, he is doing a heck of a job. Dak Prescott is doing it himself. You always give credit to the player first. He's never been better in his career than this year. And I get it. As you age, he's in the prime of his playing career. But let's face it, Mike McCarthy, this is his first year to call plays, his first year where him and Dak, like it or not, whether Dak likes it or not, if you hear from some people that are in Dak's camp, he's getting the most out of Dak, and Dak is doing his best job. So to me, yeah, he deserves a lot of praise. This team looks like they might have the MVP at the quarterback. They look like they have a good chance of winning the division if somebody falters. Like, maybe everything falls apart. Maybe we can blame McCarthy at the end of the year for a whole bunch of things. But right now, Mike McCarthy deserves a lot of praise for what this team has accomplished.
33 wins in his tenure. Am I correct about that? 33 out of 46 potential games, I believe.
Oh, so maybe in the last
since
3
2021.
years.
Yeah, because he obviously was part of the Dak didn't quarterback, so he had Fart Smo hat maker for one game.
Uh-huh. And the offense looks right now as fluid as I think we've seen it in a long time. Many different options, many different options at receiver, and still some of the elements that I think that with the tight end position that I didn't see in even whenever he was with the Green Bay. It always felt like Green Bay was going to have the next best tight end, and Aaron Rodgers would be like, not throwing to that guy.
Yeah.
And then you'd be like, dang, or that dude would have one good season and then disappear. And so, yeah, I think here's the factors that I need from my head coach, especially if he's coming into this kind of a situation. I need somebody who can organize the team and have a great vision for what he wants them to be like. All right. And that is, they came in and sat down with Will McClay and said, here's what we want a Cowboys player to look like at each one of these positions. We need size, we need speed, we need these things. They did define the Cowboys defense as speed. And guess what he did? He said, hey, Dan Quinn, that's your defense. That's your baby. I'm not going to interfere with that too much. I'm going to let you design it. Go be great at it. And Dan Quinn has built one of the best Dallas defenses we've seen in a long time. And so I think the ability to kind of put ego aside on some things and say what's best for the team is the most important thing. And he's done that so far. When it comes to the Dak Prescott part, though, and what they're doing offensively, because this isn't just about the offense, right?
Yep.
This conversation isn't just about the Cowboys offense. But whenever you look at what Dak's doing right now, I think there's a lot of nuance that Kellen just did not know. Things that rules that Kellen Moore didn't have in place. When Mike goes and plays golf, whether he knows it or not, he has rules that he plays by. He has things in his mind, in his swing that he knows he has to do. Me, I go and I try to hit ball, and that's about it. And I have no rules to go on. Now, if I had those rules and things, it might help me a little bit. And I think there are nuances that Mike McCarthy, with his quarterback school or whatever, and other quarterbacks that he's worked with over time, that he thinks you have to do these certain things. And maybe Kellen Moore just didn't know some of these other things, much like watching him run out of bounds or slide instead of always trying to put his shoulder into somebody. That's one little thing that is making Dak more effective this year.
And I think I continue to go back to this in the credit discussion from the 682. All last year it was Dan Quinn or Kellen Moore. This year it's Dak. McCarthy never gets any credit. And I guess my argument to that would be I think he deserves some. And so I wanted to look at a couple of different things. So this year, and I did focus a lot on the offense, but some of this does work in cooperation with the defense. The offense is 7th in time of possession, but perhaps more impressive, they're 2nd in drive success rate. And essentially drive success rate determines, first downs, touchdowns based off of percentage of offensive plays you actually have. Mm-hmm. So they're 2nd in the league in that. They're also
San Francisco in betting.
Are they?
That's a similar stat to earlier that I showed you. And Kevin, it is San Francisco because both Cowboys and San Francisco are almost on historic seasons offensively.
And if with that in mind, don't you feel like Shanahan gets all kinds of credit?
Oh, for sure.
And I'm not saying that McCarthy is Shanahan-esque or at that exact same level. I'm just saying it feels like if you're right behind the team where the coach gets lots and lots of credit and the quarterback gets lots of credit, being on the team where the quarterback gets lots and lots of credit, you would at least get some credit to go along with that.
And for anybody right now that's like, well, I mean, it's clearly Dak that's the reason for all this. But then you go back and you point out that, hey, Mike McCarthy has had success as a head coach calling plays. And immediately they go, yeah, but it was Aaron Rodgers. Well, I mean, we have Dak. So shouldn't we just be just fine? I mean, it's Dak. It's like he's just like Aaron Rodgers is basically what you told me until you needed the other side to argue against it.
And right now, Dak's on pace to have the 2nd best QBR of his career behind only his rookie year. But I decided to look into something that came up in a crosstalk maybe last week about Justin Herbert. All right? So if it was Kellen Moore and then he went over to the Chargers and the Chargers have been dominating and everything like that, yet they have not. And here's a couple of things that I looked up about that. Justin Herbert, his QBR this year, it was better 2 years ago. Like it is on pace to be better than it was last year, but it's also on pace to not be as good as it was 2 years ago. Last year, the Chargers offense averaged 23 points per game without Kellen Moore. This year with Kellen Moore, 22.9. So it's literally almost exactly the same. Last year's team went 10-7. This year they're on pace to go 7-10. Juxtapose that against the Cowboys offense. Last year, the vaunted Kellen Moore offense, 27.5 points a game. This year's Cowboys offense, 32.3 points per game. And so the thing there is, I agree, Dak definitely deserves credit for this, but I don't think this is a 100% deal. I don't think you can say the success of this team goes to Dak Prescott and Dan Quinn. Like, I know there are plenty of other people involved, but I would think if that's your pie, that Mike McCarthy would get in there somewhere.
Yeah, no, absolutely, man. I think when we asked Jerry last year about this, and it came down when Jerry was like, look, he really takes a lot of pride in not necessarily saying all the attention's on me, but being the one that's kind of shepherding the organization through this thing. He loved the fact he still does love the fact that he left Green Bay and that their success was what it was for so many years while he was there, and that he got to be part of that success, right? That's the thing I feel like with Mike McCarthy. You could say that maybe he's a maniacal egomaniac or whatever, but he came in here and said, hey, Will McClay, do your job. And I'll when you send me a player, I'll let you know if I like that guy. And I think that's one of the big factors is I don't think he has a huge ego that just reigns over the entire program. He wants everybody to be invested in this thing, because when players are invested in it, when coaches are invested in it in their own way, they take ownership and they believe that they have something more to play for and more to work for, rather than I just got to go work for this guy because he's a taskmaster all day.
Look, I I didn't have any favoritism towards Mike McCarthy when he got the job. I was just, to be honest,
I thought it was the wrong hire.
I was really happy we didn't have to deal with Jason Garrett anymore. I knew that he was the wrong guy. He is an analytical guy that needs to be in front offices. I know Jason Garrett isn't. I know he went on to the Giants, was horrible there, and now he is on TV. Like, he's a guy that needs to put together a game plan. I don't mind like Jason Garrett being part of putting together a game plan. I think the game moves way too fast for Jason Garrett to be a successful head coach. And I know he had successes as a head coach, but I just don't think he's able to keep up with how quick the game moves as a head coach. He wants time for his brain to work to make the adjustments, and there's not enough time for his brain to do those things. There's only a few seconds to put in the next play. I think Mike McCarthy is, to me, way better than Jason Garrett and way better than the majority of coaches in the NFL. To your point, Kyle Shanahan's better. Do I think Sean McVay's better? I think Sean McVay is better. Sure. I think there's I think Andy Reid is better. I think you want me to go down a list? There's probably a list of about 7 or 8 guys that I'd say probably better than Mike McCarthy.
No issue with that either.
But if you want to tell me that there's 15 coaches better than Mike McCarthy, I don't think so. There's definitely not 20 coaches better than Mike McCarthy. And there was, to me, almost always 20 coaches better than Jason Garrett. This is an interesting situation in Dallas. This is not normal. The way the Jones family run an organization is not normal. I think he's arguably one of the best head coaches you can get under the way that the Dallas Cowboys are run. In fact, not having an ego, when you talked about a little bit of his ego, not having an ego, you can't have a big ego here. If you have a Bill Parcells ego, you will get run out of here, or you'll just kind of want to quit.
Yeah, no, that makes sense, because working with Jerry and where that all lands at the end of the day.
Right.
But somebody did bring up Schottenheimer and young Shotty and the way that he, we had our chance to interview him. He's a great communicator.
He was.
He has a wealth of knowledge about the game, and he and McCarthy are on the same page too about what they want to accomplish. He even told us, look, it's not going to be a ground and pound. That's not our goal. Our goal is to be a good, balanced offense. And he also did say some weeks it's going to be this guy, some weeks that guy. It has a bad coach would say, you know what? I don't care that CeeDee Lamb can help us more. We're doing our system, and that's what matters the most. Instead, they said, going to CeeDee Lamb is the best option we have. Let's make that adjustment.
And I think that's totally fine for a lot of Cowboys fans, right? Hey, you want to give him some credit? No problem. Like, I don't think this needs to be a zero-sum credit game. And so I think multiple people can get credit on this.
I just want to make sure that this is clear to people. I give most of the credit to Dak Prescott. The player always gets the credit. If a person goes from 15 home runs to 40 home runs, I first give all the credit to the player.
Yeah, both should hit that home run in the World Series.
But then you have to look at who's coaching him and who is maybe helping him make these adjustments. But the player is the one who's ultimately performing. Dak is ultimately the one who gets the most credit for Dak's season. But to your points, I do think you have to then start looking at the head coach, the coordinators, the quarterback coach, and go, they have to also be helping too.